Hi guys, good evening and welcome to Grade Up. My name is Harshmeet Singh and I have with me a very special guest. A guest who has come to Grade Up again just on the abundant requests that we have been receiving from your end. We have with us Mr. Shubham Gupta. Most of you would recognize him. He is a person who got all India rank 6 in the UPSC Civil Services 2018 examination and is currently serving as the Assistant Collector of Nashik in Maharashtra. He also was with us during the UPSC Grade Up Conclave, and many of you loved his sessions, which was one of the most watched sessions on the Conclave. And that is why many of you requested him to come back, and here he is. Uh, a very warm welcome to you, Shubham. And we are very happy to see you, and we are privileged that you are here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Harsh. Glad to be back.
Thank you so much. So, students, as you know, this session is being broadcasted live at two places. This is going live on the Grade Up app also. This is going live on the Grade Up IAS YouTube channel as well. So, all of you who are watching this session either on YouTube or on the Grade Up app, I welcome you all, and I'm very happy to see you here. So, we have prepared a few questions from the ones that were given to us by the students who wanted to ask these questions to Shubham, and we have requested him to spare some time from his extremely busy schedule and answer a few questions which the students have. Also, the chat is open to everyone. Whatever question that you might have that you want to ask, please feel free and please post them in the chat. We will try and take as many questions as possible. Once again, a very welcome to you, Shubham, and to all the students who have come here. Now, before beginning, and we know that your introduction deservingly so starts with the fact that you were able to get all India rank 6 in probably one of the most difficult examinations in the country. So let me just start with a very obvious question. What was your reaction to this all India rank 6? And along with that, when was it the first time that you actually got the idea in your mind that you want to prepare for the civil services?
Actually, my reaction was related to how I got the idea to prepare for civil services. So let me answer your second question first.
Mhm.
So I got the idea of preparing. So when I was pretty young actually. I don't remember. Maybe I was in fifth standard or something. My dad, being a business person, he used to interact with bureaucrats every now and then. But unfortunately, he did not have a very good experience trying to interact with them. So one day he was very frustrated with one of the bureaucrats that he was trying to talk to. He unfortunately wasn't giving him time on multiple occasions. So he just came home and he was very frustrated and he looked at me and he said कि बेटा बड़े होके तो collector बनना और लोगों को ऐसे परेशान मत करना. So those were the words which my dad said to me. But I don't think I was too young at that point of time to realize what collector is, how to become a collector, and what exam and all that. So this might have been somewhere in my subconscious. But actually, when after 10th standard, when I had to choose a subject between science commerce, those are the only two subjects offered in my school. So that is exactly the time when I finally finally decided what my career trajectory I wanted it to look like, and that is when the idea of UPSC came to me, precisely because of how I wanted my life to, look 10, 20 years down the line.
Right.
And I think those two ideas together formed the backbone of why I chose a career in the civil services.
Right.
And to answer your first question, so when I got the rank finally, after 3 attempts, so this was my fourth attempt, I just called up my dad and told him, Papa ho gaya.
Wow, amazing. So I think we all got to thank your dad for all this inspiration that he gave you and you were able to achieve this position. Awesome, amazing story. Now, before I go into your strategy, which all the students would want to know from your end, let me first ask you what was the biggest challenge that you faced during your preparation? Because the students here are facing abundant challenges. Some of them are facing challenges of, let's say, financial kind. Some of them don't have enough money. Some of them have a lot of family pressure. What was the biggest challenge that you faced during your preparation?
Actually, I had different. I think I had to deal with different kinds of pressures in different stages of my preparation.
Okay.
Some things were constant. So, for example, one was time management. Time management has been was a major issue, especially because I was always either I was in college or I was training for the previous service which I had got through my second attempt. So
Okay.
I did not have the whole day to prepare for UPSC. I had only about, I think, 4 to 5 hours every day, in which I had to, congest all my
Right.
studies and try to still come out on the right end of the
Right.
spectrum, so to say.
Right.
So that was the biggest challenge, time management, and I think it holds true for even people who devote the entire day to prepare
Mhm.
for UPSC again.
Right.
Uh, so people have different challenges with time, but time management is definitely a factor which one needs to think about while preparing or trying to devise a strategy for
Right.
the exam. Second is definitely, I think, it's kind of, I would say social pressure,
Mhm.
and this goes more for people who are giving repeated attempts, not for first timers.
Right.
So once you are given one attempt and you are unfortunately not able to succeed, then
Mhm.
that social pressure keeps on adding.
Right.
Uh, Especially in my case, when I cleared in the second attempt, I got 366, and I failed in the third attempt. After that, it was even added pressure on my shoulders, and not from my
Right.
family,
Right.
be honest. It was mostly from my own end, which I had developed on my own self, and from the
Right.
people who looked at me. कि अच्छा अब तो age जा रही है,
Right.
you joined service at 24, now you're already 26, so how will you do
Right.
it? You will not
Right.
become the cabinet secretary of the country, so to say. So all those, so all those things which keep on adding up, and somehow
Right.
you try to, it gets cluttered in your mind, and it
Right.
becomes very, very important to get that clutter out of your mind,
Right.
out of your head, and
Right.
just focus on what you want to do and what the exam also wants you to do.
Right. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. In fact, there were 2 or 3 good takeaways that I could take, and I would want to repeat for the students. First, please don't go into this myth that you have to read for 8 to 10 hours a day. As Shubham has rightly pointed out, he had 5 to 6 hours. The thing that he focused on was to utilize that time. Secondly, the pressure that you actually have, most of it is created by yourself. It's not your family, so don't blame your family for putting pressure on you. Don't blame your relatives to put pressure on you. It's actually you yourself who are putting pressure. Thank you so much for that. Now, I know that many of the students in the chat would want to know one thing. So before the questions pile up from that end, let me ask you from my end itself, what was your optional subject? Why did you choose it? And is there any specific option that you want the students to choose? कि ये scoring है, ये ले लो. What do you think?
So my optional was law, but my
Okay.
background is in economics.
Oh, okay.
And why I chose law over economics, I think that can be a very common question. It's very simple. I did not do my R&D, so I was not
Okay.
vigilant enough to choose a subject which. So technically speaking, economics was the most optimal subject for me because I was good at it. I liked reading the subject also. So I
Okay.
should have technically and most efficiently I should have chosen economics. But
Right.
because I was a part of a coaching where I think 90% people, irrespective of the background that they are, they end up choosing
Hmm.
law. So I was part of that herd race, and
Okay.
I also ended up choosing law. But there is a very important caveat there. Why I stuck to law even after understanding in about 2 3 months that okay, I might have made a mistake there, is
Hmm.
because I realized that I really really enjoyed reading the subject. And
Okay.
although economics was a higher scoring subject as compared to law, but there was not much difference. So just
Okay.
precisely because my interest was there in that area, I realized, and
Hmm.
I think I said it to myself that
Right.
I can do it. I can do it with this subject also,
Right.
and interest in the subject kept me going. So to sum it up, I think
Hmm.
the key factors that you need to keep in mind to choose a optional subject are two.
Hmm.
One is definitely the interest. It
Right.
has to be a subject which interests you. It cannot be subject which is scoring but doesn't interest you. That doesn't make sense. It will
Right.
never get you marks. Doesn't
Right.
matter if mathematics score 380. It doesn't matter if you don't know mathematics. You can never score 380, right?
Right.
So interest has to be one. But at the same time, if there are two subjects which are decently equally interesting for a
Hmm.
person, then you
Right.
should look for the average scoring marks in the last 2 3 years, and then choose the
Okay.
subject which is higher scoring relatively as
Okay.
compared to the other. So those are
Okay.
the two factors that you need to keep in mind. And I don't suggest any option. I don't think I can suggest any optional because that will
Okay.
precisely throw the entire tree that I've just broken down the drain. So
Right.
I'm not going to suggest any
Right.
optional as such.
Perfect. That sums up perfectly. So, if I'm correct, so your law was your option in your second and your fourth, both the attempts, it was
Right.
law only, right?
Right.
Okay, great, great. So don't be afraid to jump into something new if you find it interesting, right?
Yes.
Perfect, great. So with that, having said that, let's put the optional aside. Let's come to the answer writing part and the essay part. We always hear the fact that optional and essay are the two most scoring subjects where you can actually get 150, 160 maybe in one paper, and that can make a hell lot of a difference. Do you have any key suggestion in this regard, what to focus when you're preparing for the essay? Because in my experience also, I've seen the students focusing so much on the GS paper and optional paper that people don't really pay attention to 250 marks that the essay paper also carries. So any general guidelines for essay and for answer writing in general from your end?
For essay paper, I think one very key interesting factor which a lot of aspirants miss out is the thing that I have about I have about 3 hours, so and I have to write 2 essays. So let me just jump right into writing, and maybe I will not have time later on to finish it, which
Right.
actually happens.
Right.
Even though you're just about writing 22 pages
Right.
against the 50 pages in the mains paper in those 3 hours itself,
Right.
why a person is not able to finish the essay paper is because you do not have a clear thought process in those 3 hours. You
True.
keep on stopping and thinking again, keep on stopping and thinking again, and you
True.
also lose track of the story which you want to tell the examiner, and you
Right.
end up getting below average marks. So my
Right.
strategy for essay was very very simple. It was not that I wanted to practice 5 test papers before the exam. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
At least not for me.
Mhm.
So my strategy was very simple. I divided the 180 minutes into two parts, 100 minutes and 80 minutes, just simply
Right.
because it's slower in the beginning and faster at the end.
Right.
And those 100 minutes, so whatever time I had given for one essay, I'll divide that into equal half. So for
Right.
the first 50 minutes, I will just make the structure of the essay, uh,
Okay.
jot down everything that is there in my mind, try to
Okay.
form a story out of those points.
Mhm.
It has to look like a flow. Uh,
Right.
so I want to tell the examiner a story about the topic that I want to write. And
Right.
these days, especially UPSC is asking philosophical topics,
Mhm.
as well.
Right. True.
So it becomes even more important for you to tell the story. Tell a story to the examiner rather than just try to give them bullet points. Such a ये भी point हो सकते हैं, ये भी
Right.
point.
Right.
They are actually not looking at everything that we covered in that topic. They are looking at your interpretation of how you want to explain the topic to them, right? So don't try to cover every
True.
aspect related to that topic. You can never do that because there are philosophical questions. There is no end to interpretations in those topics. But
Right.
in those,
True.
it is very, very important to make a very clear structure of the particular essay and also
Right.
devote significant time into writing your introduction and conclusion because of the very, very simple reason that the first impression is given in the introduction and the marks are given
Right.
at the conclusion. So it's very, very
Right.
important that those two aspects of the essay are very, very well written and
Hmm.
it should flow like a story.
Right. Thank you. These are actually amazing words of wisdom, and I really want all the students to listen to it very, very carefully. Don't rush into starting your essay. Think about what you're actually presenting. As Shom rightly pointed out, when you're actually making a movie, you have to first think what actually are you presenting to the examiner rather than rushing into it. Essay probably is one of those papers where you would have slightly more time as compared to other papers. So there is a lesser chance of you actually rushing at the end. So please do take a lot of time in ideation. So to those students who are asking in the chat, yes, this is absolutely live. Shubham Gupta has on our request, on your request, has agreed to take out time from his very, very busy schedule. So yes, we are open to questions. Whatever questions you have, please do ask them in the chat. We have already taken a few questions about optional, etc. The second question, and many people are asking in the chat, and we also would like to come here, is the prelims part. Many people are most scared of the prelims. It is the first stage of the examination. You have about 5 to 6 lakh people writing the prelims examination. It's very unpredictable. So just a couple of questions. First, how do you actually prepare for the prelims? How much time do you think is enough for prelims? And second, there's such a lot of cloud about current affairs. Current affairs is unpredictable. You don't know what is going to be asked. What is your advice to the students? How can they make sure that prelims is not their stumbling block?
Right. So to answer both your questions in a nutshell, uh, prelims preparation has to be very, very comprehensive.
Right.
And when I say comprehensive, I mean that when you are studying for prelims, you should not look
Right.
at prelims and mains as two distinct topics or two distinct
Okay.
papers.
True.
You have to prepare together. And by
Right.
preparing together for both the stages of the exam, you're actually developing a perspective, and that perspective really helps you not
Right.
only in trying to understand the topic, but also to remember the facts relating to that topic, because
Right.
it is very difficult to remember isolated facts, but
Right.
it is easier to remember facts which are part of a story.
Right.
For example, if you are reading history, if you know the topic well, you are able to remember the facts. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult if you just try to mug it up.
Right.
So the to just sum it up, uh, for the static subjects of the prelims paper,
Right.
you need to try to understand the topics rather than just mug up all the facts, which becomes very, very important, in which a lot of aspirants not end up doing. So that is very important. And also I would like to suggest, in terms of preparation, it is not a bad idea to opt for a test series. I generally feel that people face the problem of lack of time during the exam, and that is precisely because you're not used to how the exam flows and what is the right strategy for you while you're attempting the exam on the day of the exam. So you need to be very, very careful about that. You have a very, very clearly devised plan for yourself. How you want to attend the exam on that day, and for that, test series is a good idea. If you give about 15-20 tests before the exam, you're good to go. You'll have a certain strategy in your mind, and that will definitely work in the exam, right? So, and for that, in terms of how the test series has to be attempted, I generally suggest that if you have opted for a test series which is devised by Coaching Academy, they generally do it very well. So you will be able to revise every subject at least thrice. So you don't need to read any subject apart from what the coaching is or the institute has asked you to in terms of preparing for the test series. So don't do that. Don't waste your time in trying to devise your own timetable about how a subject is to be covered. That is not to be done. That is already done by the institute. So don't do that. But otherwise, the idea is that if you have read a particular subject, like for example, if you have finished reading geography, give a test of geography. Then if you have read history, give a test of history. Then move into the full-fledged test exam. Like give GS1 wholesomely once, then again, and then again. So that is how you'll be accustomed to the exam. That is what I want to say about the structure of the exam and the static papers. About current affairs, it's actually the problem with current affairs and why people fear current affairs is very simple. That nowadays I've seen aspirants trying to gather all the information from those booklets which are available in the market, right? So people have moved away from preparing from the newspaper and doing their own research. And that becomes so bulky because you do not have a context of a particular news. So if you read the newspaper well, if you spend about 2.5 to 3 hours, I think is the minimum that you need to devote to the newspaper every day. It has to be about 2.5 to 3 hours. Then you are doing your research well. You're reading about the events that are happening around you, and those events will help you gather the information, which is probably supplementary information, which is available in those magazines. So my suggestion is very simple: that do your own research, make your own notes, try to gather as much information from doing your supplementary research while you're reading the newspaper, and then you can add up some of the facts which you may not be very sure about from those magazines. But those magazines itself cannot be the only source of information. So that is very, very important one.
Okay, got it. Perfect. I really hope that people here are actually making notes. You're hearing the strategy straight from the horse's mouth. The person who has actually done it all, who has got All India rank 6. So I'm really, really hoping that all of you are listening to this very, very carefully. So the next time that you're in a doubtful stage about your preparation, about the strategy, you will remember these words as told to you by the assistant collector of Nashik right now. Shubham, just to add on and just to take your view on one more thing. In the prelims examination, there's also a dilemma about how many questions to attempt. Would you suggest the aspirants to go all out and take at least 90 questions, or do you advise them to be more careful? What's your view on this?
So again, Harsh, that is why I suggest that you should give about 15 to 20 tests before the exam. So it is unique for everybody. So I know a lot of friends of mine, they attempted about 75 to 80 questions and still probably scored more marks than me. But that strategy never worked for me. For me, it was always 90 plus. So every exam, all the 4 prelims that I have written, I have always marked more than 90 questions, because I know by experience of my test series that no other strategy can work. This strategy may also not work. That's a possibility. It happened with me twice that the strategy didn't work. But I know as a matter of fact that if I attempt lesser than that, then I'm definitely going to fail in the exam. So that is why it's very important for you to practice enough and give yourself that chance to devise that strategy for you, which includes how many questions to attempt, which includes how many readings the paper needs for you to finish the exam, which includes when you should mark your OMR sheets, how many questions after that you should mark your OMR sheets, how you should mark your OMR sheet, how should you attempt a question, by elimination method, by which method. So it includes everything and it comes by practice. So it is not a gospel truth that I can tell you, this is the strategy, just go and, just do this in the exam and you'll clear the exam. Aisa nahi hai. You have to devise your own strategy and that will come by practice only.
Okay, perfect. Got it. Perfect. So moving on, we have touched upon the prelims, we have touched upon the main setting. Let's come to the next stage, that is the interview. Now, for many of the aspirants who are right now watching this, interview is a far stage, but it is a stage that they need to be prepared about and they need to know from a person who has been through that experience more than once. So let me come to this. How do you actually prepare for the interview? They call it the personality test. Personality is not something that you can grow in a month or in a month and a half. So how do you start your interview preparation? When exactly do you start that preparation?
So let me start by saying that it is called a personality test for a reason. And anybody who has cleared prelims and mains,
Mm-hmm.
rest assured that you have that personality that UPSC is looking for. The
Mm-hmm.
problem lies only in the place when you try to hide that personality, and that
Okay.
happens with a lot of aspirants, right?
Okay.
So, in order to prepare for the personality test, you have about decent time which is given by UPSC. Generally, at least a month is given by UPSC to prepare for the interview
Yeah.
after the mains result also.
Hmm.
So use that time well, very well. And how you should use that time is there is a detailed application form which is generally filled before the prelims exam,
Right.
before the main exam.
Right.
So try to take down keywords from there, which may include your name, your mother's name,
Mm-hmm.
your father's name, your place of birth, your school.
Mm-hmm.
For example, my school's name was Sri Swaminarayan Gurukul, so I was asked a question about Gurukul schools,
Hmm.
residential schools in India.
Right.
Your hobbies. Hobby is a very key aspect of
Right.
questions in India. Generally, everybody gets questions asked about their hobbies and interests. So that
Right.
is a key aspect of how you should prepare for prelims. So if you have done that very well, if you have
Mm-hmm.
studied your DAF very well and researched well on it, then you're good
Mm-hmm.
to go. You may get questions asked on it, you may not get questions asked on it, but you'll always be confident about the fact that even if I get questions asked on those aspects, I am
Right.
well prepared. So that confidence boosts how your answers show up in the interview, and you end up answering much better than you would probably
Mm-hmm.
feel otherwise.
Right.
Another aspect which is very important is you need to research, you need to study decently well about your optional subject
Okay.
and your educational background.
Okay.
These three key aspects form a wholesome,
Mm-hmm.
course material for the
Right.
interview as such. And
Right.
you have decent time. 1 month is more than enough for you to prepare for interview. So
Mm-hmm.
don't fear the personality test. It is only like a conversation which I am having with Harsh right now.
Right.
Just a bit more serious, maybe. But yeah. So just take it like that.
Right. Just out of curiosity, what did you tell your hobby as in the interview?
So my hobby, actually, interestingly, both the times I filled my detailed application form, they were very different. I think probably
Oh,
diametrically opposite of each other. In the
okay.
first DAF, which I filled, I was curious to tell the examiner that I know everything. So my
Okay.
hobby is listening to songs. Also, my hobby is watching movies. Also, my hobby is reading books. Also, so I wrote all three, and I got questioned asked out of all three, and I did not know because of
Okay.
course nobody can have hobbies, three hobbies which so hobby is something which you do every day, right? So not
Right.
everybody watches movies, read books, and listen to
Right.
songs every day, like in
True.
that detail, right? So
Right.
so that is the mistake which I made. In the
Mm-hmm.
second detailed application form, I was very precise. So I gave them just one hobby, and the hobby was
Okay.
reading non-fiction books. That is
Okay.
that is the only hobby that I wrote there.
Okay.
Secondly, I did very smart things. I mean, I tried to do a smart thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote my academic interest. So in the last detailed application form, I written everything. I was the
Okay.
executive committee head of this committee. I was
Mm-hmm.
executive, I was college president. I'd written
Mm-hmm.
everything that I probably had achieved before, academically.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But in this particular time, I focused majorly on what I want the examiner to ask questions to me about.
True. True.
So I brought it down to just two. I wrote
Okay.
one. I have written a paper on Tawaif and the traveling bioscope. That is one. I
Okay.
want you to ask me questions about the courtesan culture of India. And
Okay.
second, I just wrote executive committee member of Friday School of Economics. I want you to ask me questions on those two aspects. That's I'm not
Okay.
giving you any more information than that.
Okay.
You're not asking me questions on anything.
Okay.
So that is actually very important. You need to be very
Okay.
precise. Don't try to put all the information there is on the detailed application form.
Mm.
This will just give more fodder to the examiner to ask you
Okay.
questions.
Okay. I think being the humble person you are, you're not ready to accept that you did the smart thing, but let us all assure you that yes, your outcome is a proof enough of the fact that yes, you did fill the DF very smartly in the second occasion at least. Also, one of the most common questions that people get asked in their interview is why do you want to join the civil services? Was this question asked to you? And if yes, okay, no, it was not asked
No,
to
it
you.
wasn't asked.
Okay, let's take a very let's say scenario in which someone asks you this question: why would you want to join the civil services? What, according to you, should be an answer that would come across as genuine to the board?
So, to be honest, like if I can put myself on the other side of the table, if I am the interviewer, what would I want
Mhm.
to listen from the aspirant is Probably very honest answers. And by being honest, I mean, one, you should definitely tell what is the end goal that you're trying to achieve. Like what do you want to achieve in 20 years of your service? What kind of service to the people that you're looking at? That is generally, I mean, at least I hope that is why people want to join the civil services. That is one. And two, I also want people to understand that it is very important that every person wants to do a job for certain individual achievements also.
Right.
Like, so that is very important to highlight in the answer to this question, that what is the individual, what is your personal take away from this service after 30-35 years of service that you want to serve. So it cannot be just service to the people, because it has to be somewhere down the line, it has to be a certain personal satisfaction also. So those two aspects combined, that will form wholesome answer to this question.
Okay, got it. Perfect. Now, it was quite a long time ago. You may not remember it, but just in case, do you remember what were your preferences for the service and the preferences for the cadre that you filled? And if yes, was there any specific reasoning behind it?
Yes, actually. So first option was IAS, second was foreign, third was IPS.
Okay.
And fourth was audit and accounts and not income tax.
Oh, okay.
So I had just basically opted out of revenue services in my preferences. So those are the preferences. I think aspirants will like to know more about that. So why I filled IAS? Because simple reason, I wanted to become an IAS officer. Next two choices are actually very specific to a person. So why whether any person should fill foreign services or police services, that is totally a personal opinion, right? Because those are very subject specific services. One is completely related to international relations. Second is completely related to law and order. And so one has you traveling all over the world. Another is you working many more hours than you can ever imagine. Those are both are equally
true.
It's again a personal choice that you have to make. You have to analyze for yourself. A lot of people end up choosing IPS as their first service. A lot of people end up choosing service as their first preference also. So that is again, like I said, for personal choice. For me, why I did not choose revenue services, because I generally feel, and I think even today, I feel that the content of the job is much more comprehensive in audit and accounts rather than revenue service. Revenue service, I'm not demeaning the revenue service at all in any context at all, right? It is just personal preference. I felt in terms of all the areas that the government works in, So basically you end up auditing pretty much every area that the government works in, and that gives you a wide ambit of knowledge that you can gain out of it, So that is the reason why I chose audit and not revenue. But revenue is also fantastic service.
Okay, fair enough. And the other part about the state preferences?
So for me, first preference was, so nowadays there is a zonal system how you have to fill your preferences. So first was my home cadre, which is Rajasthan, and second was a choice. So me belonging to North India, I did not want to go for South Indian states very soon. So there were three zones which occupy the North Indian states. First was Rajasthan, so that was done. Second zone had UP, and third zone had MP and Maharashtra. So I opted for the zone which had MP and Maharashtra, and I opted for Maharashtra as my second choice because I thought that half of the life of a civil servant you end up spending in the capital of the state, and I thought that probably Mumbai serves my interest better than Bhopal. So that was a personal choice.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Perfect. Now, one more thing. So there's a question that keeps popping up in the chat, but I will take those questions that are coming in the chat at the end. Don't worry about that. One more question. There's always a fight, or let's not say fight, a debate between Hindi medium versus English medium. We see many aspirants, especially those who have opted for Hindi medium, saying that they don't get their due. The number of students who have actually cleared the examination from Hindi medium are lower as compared to what they should have been. Do you have any view on this debate? Do you think a specific medium is given preferential treatment, or let's not say preferential treatment, but do you think a specific medium has an upper hand while appearing for this examination?
So let me be very frank, Harsh. Actually, English definitely has an upper hand in this exam, unfortunately though.
Right.
And the reason is very simple. The reason is that most of the material that is available for you to study, and the same material is utilized by the examiner also, right? So examiner who is correcting your copies, he or she has also read the same material, and most of it is available in English. And to translate the same material literally in Hindi, it will not give the same impression as the material which is organically written in English, right? So the lack of material is the primary reason why English has a better success rate rather than Hindi or any other regional language for that matter. And the way to correct is very, very simple. Like I said, if you just try to literally translate the English material into Hindi, that will not be the same interpretation and the spirit to the answer, right? So you need to try to gather that information, try to translate that in your head, and then write it down in your own words. That interpretation will definitely work. True, there is a handicap in terms of availability of information, but fortunately, the government has gathered up to it. The institutes have woken up to the situation, and now a lot of material is actually available in Hindi, prepared for you already, and you don't have to translate a lot of material. So that situation is being dealt with very, very well, and I'm sure the situation will improve. But it is very important for you to not look at Hindi as a handicap, and but trust your instincts, trust your language, and don't try to change the language that you're most comfortable with. I get a lot of questions asked that should I shift to English? No, you should not, because if you are not doing well in Hindi, you definitely will not do well in English.
Okay, perfect. That makes a lot of sense. One more question related to the interview part itself. So obviously you cannot possibly know answer to all the questions that are asked in the interview. Now you might also, and you just pointed out the fact that there were many questions asked about your hobby in your second attempt which you could not answer. Now, what do you think is the best way to handle a situation where you know a question has been asked and you have no clue about that? Do you make a calculated guess? Do you apologize for that, or do you just move on? What do you suggest?
So never try to bluff the interviewer. If you don't know, do not give a fake answer. Do not try to make up any answer. Never do that. That is the worst impression that you can give to the interviewer, and you are not going to get good marks after that. So that is the first basic principle that needs to be remembered by every aspirant who is appearing for the interview, right? Next, what I did, I can share that. So I prepared about, I think, 4 to 5 ways of how I want to say no. Like I do not know the answer to the particular question. So one way was, sorry sir, I do not remember this. Second was, sorry sir, I had read about this, but unfortunately I'm not able to recollect it right now. Third was, sorry sir, I am not able to recall it right now. I'll go back and read up on it further. Fourth was, sorry sir, I'm not able to recall it right now. So there can be different ways, So just try to frame 4 or 5 phrases in your head about how you want to say no to an answer. And all 5 of them will definitely come in handy, because there are enough questions you do not know the answers to in the interview.
Right. Okay. So amazing. This has been extremely, extremely helpful. Now, before I jump on to the last question, let me take one question from the chat that has been asked repeatedly. And I did ask you in the beginning and you did kind of answer, but let me just, for the sake of the students, let me ask you again. What do you think is an enough amount of time that the person should have when they are starting up their preparation? How much time, at least before the prelims, do you think is good enough and the person can actually go ahead and crack the examination?
So again, I took about, I think, before my first attempt, I took about 4 months, and I failed by about a mark or 2. So, but I do not feel that I was 100% prepared to write this exam in the first attempt of my preparation, and that is why I did not feel very, sad for not clearing the exam in the first attempt. So, but I've seen people devoting 1.5 years to preparation. But I think if a person is serious enough and he or she doesn't have a lot of time in hand, they want to appear for the exam as quickly as possible, I think 6 months is a decent time for you, where you can actually cover up pretty much everything that is needed to be covered in this exam. At least minimum, I mean, I think 6 months is the minimum, and you can go further than that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Now, before I let you go, and I know you have been very, very kind to us with your time. Before I let you go, just one last question: do you have any message for the hundreds of future civil services people who are watching, or the hundreds of aspirants who are watching you right now, who want to replicate the feat that you achieved not just once but twice? Any specific message that you have for them?
So I always tell this to aspirants, Harsh, actually, when you're appearing for UPSC, 2 things actually. One, do not start preparing for UPSC by taking your college and school casually. That will never come in handy. Even if you crack the exam by doing that, in life it becomes very, very difficult. So people ask me that मैं college correspondence से कर लेता हूँ या कर लेती हूँ, school कर लेते हैं ऐसे. No, don't do that. do regular college, do regular school as much as possible, and then appear for the exam. That will always help you in your life. That is one
Okay.
advice I have in general.
Okay.
And second, it's very important that you look at the exam much beyond clearing it. That will really come in handy, not just in preparation, not just for interview, but also in general in life. I see a lot of aspirants, a lot of my batchmates who, and you'll see that a lot of toppers actually, you'll see when you try to just do research on them, a lot of toppers are not able to perform very well in the field, right?
Right.
So the reason is very simple, that they had only prepared for the stage of life where they could crack the exam and
Right.
not beyond that, right?
So
So
true.
they had no
Exactly.
plans of life for life beyond clearing the exam. That
Right.
really is not the way to go. If you prepare, if you have a certain strategy, why you want to join the civil services, what you want to achieve in your life by joining the civil services,
Right.
that will really come in handy, not only in your life, but also it will keep you motivated when there are certain fallbacks.
Hmm.
In terms of in terms of the exam, the structure of the exam is such that most of us end up faltering here and there.
Right.
So having a clear headed goal as to why you want to become a civil servant really comes in handy at the end of it.
Right. Thank you so much. And I think truer words were never said. And it's an amazing note to end the session. I really want to thank you from the on behalf of all the aspirants, all the grade up team, for taking out your time, being here with the student and answering these questions. Because no matter how many times their teachers tell them, no matter how many times their seniors would tell them, but coming from a place where, or coming from a person who has actually been there in that position, given all this and actually made it to the top, it means a lot to them. Thank you so much, Shubham. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, sir. Harsh. I had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.